Hey, good evening, guys. Welcome back to Blue Ridge Silverhound. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. We got a little bit of late night, Nick at Night adventures going on Blue Ridge Silverhound. It's the first time you guys are looking outside and it's completely dark. But anyways, this is a video I'm doing for Todd C on the old email chat. And thank you, sir, for the recommendation. And Todd wanted to know, Blue Ridge, what kind of coins can I get into that combines the best of both worlds, rarity and inexpensive? All right, so I got to thinking about it, and generally, on its face, when someone says something like that, it's really tough to gauge exactly fits into this very narrow funnel, of sorts of different coins that I would consider to be not only relatively exclusive, scarce, pretty rare, or things along those lines, and also at a reasonable price. So I talked to Todd. I'm like, okay, so when you say inexpensive, what do you mean? Do you mean $500? Do you mean $200, $100, $50? Or what is kind of like this beginning baseline dollar value you wanted to focus on? And he said, well, somewhere in the $50 to $100 range. I want to know that I guess I'm getting the most for my money, the best bang for the buck. And I'm like, well, it's not like you're buying a car, or you're buying something at the store that's bundled with something else, and you feel like there's a lot of perceived value that goes into it. Coins, it's a little bit different, but not way too much different. I think in the in the entire realm of coins, we tend to forget some of the more unique products, okay? And I'm gonna talk about that here in a second. But after going back and forth with Todd, okay, we agreed, okay, let's focus on $100. What are some examples of different types of coins that you could get into at a relatively reasonable rate, okay? This isn't one of those, impossible videos where I'm gonna tell you to do this, and it's like a 1 in a million chance to do that to earn this. Okay, that's not the end game for this particular video, but realistically, what can you as a collector get into where it's affordable, the fun factors there, you feel like you're getting a lot of bang for the buck? So that's what we're going to talk about. The first one that I really wanted to talk about is a series that's really near and dear to my heart. Okay. It is very iconic in terms of American kind of like old world style coinage. All right, I know that kind of seems hard to understand, but Civil War tokens and Civil War store cards, okay, fit in this kind of like unique realm where it feeds off of the market. All right, so if the market gets hot, so does any Civil War ephemera. And then when it drops down, people tend to forget about it. So we're in a time right now in the coin market where there's not a whole bunch of action in Civil War tokens. They're still being sold, they're still being marketed on the secondary, avenues like eBay and Heritage and, all those places, and even on some retail sites. But people aren't talking about it as frequently as we used to, back 10 years ago when, people were trying to trample over each other to get, good examples of every coin. So I have an example of a coin that I picked up last week, which kind of like sums up this first part of this video as a direction for what is considered to be rare and inexpensive. And this one right here is a Christoph Karl. This is actually a Civil War store card that I've been wanting for a while because of the reverse design. Go check out this close-up graphic of the coin that I have here and you'll understand. It's a Christoph Karl, and he was a merchant in New York City. Let me tell you exactly what he sold. I have my handy Civil War tokens guide. This one is actually forwarded by Mr. Dr. George Fuld, who's an expert in Civil War tokens. So I'm just gonna go ahead and look at the New York listings in here. And this one is F630 AM. So it shouldn't be too hard to find in here. AT and AM. So he was a liquor dealer. So there's a couple different die pairings that's used on this particular example that makes up the actual coin. This one is actually about the size of a $quarter, a US standard $quarter. And what's pretty cool is, that's kind of like, that's a way different size than what we typically see in Civil War tokens and store cards. Generally, with anything Civil War, whether it's a card or a token, okay, we'll have the same shape and size as a standard US small cent, a penny. But in the case of this one right here, this one is much larger. It's again the size of a quarter. But this one has a rarity of R2. So if we went back into the book, the rarity scale for an R2 is between 2001 and 5000. So the higher the rarity scale, it goes all the way up to R10, which means there's only one in existence. I've owned a few R8s and R9s, in which there are only between 2 to 10 examples within the two rarity scales. That's not a lot of coins, okay? Between 2 and 5,000 examples of this particular store card die pairing indicates that it is rare, okay? Anything generally under 10,000 mintage is what I would classify as rare. Between 10,000 and maybe 500,000 is what I would consider scarce. All right, so it's not difficult to find, but sometimes it might be challenging to find one at an acceptable grade level for one that is scarce. But Civil War tokens are a great kind of medium to collect into. Okay, I bought this one for $60 on Great Collections last week, and for what you get, all right, you have a real piece of Civil War Americana. You have something in which there is at the most 5,000 pieces made. Now keep in mind, these store cards, people went into a merchant, whether it's that liquor dealer or a die sinker or maybe a soft goods exchange, individual that did notions and things of that nature. They exchange these store cards for the goods. Plus, they're also neat because they have the business information. It's almost like a business card, but it is also used as money. Now, a lot of the tokens, these Civil War tokens and store cards, are what I would consider to be rare and inexpensive. Now, don't get me wrong. There are examples that sell for many thousands of dollars. Like your Boston Merriam tokens, in which I've owned one. It's actually this one right here. I actually did a video on this one a number of years back, where I discovered one example out of some box of tokens, and I bought it for $10, got it graded through NGC, and then sold it for $1,800 a few months later. That was a great flip. Not the best flip I've ever had, but to give you an idea, some of these tokens, get out of hand price-wise. So there are a lot of them. You could get some of the, some of the R7s and the R8s for as low as $100, all right, which is pretty phenomenal considering that in that rarity range, okay, there's only probably 24 examples in existence. And again, Civil War, one of the biggest battleground, truly iconic pieces of history that this country has gone through, easily accessible, for under $100. So that would be my kind of number one pick for what is considered rare, scarce, and cheap. All right, now $50 to $100 is relatively cheap to me. To a lot of you, it's not. But if you were going to spend that kind of money, are you going to buy a roll of silver dimes, or should you buy a Civil War store card? Well, that's really upon you if you wanted to do that. To me, I find it interesting. The coins are over 150 years old at this point because they're all dated 1863. But that's a good idea right there. The next thing I wanted to talk about that kind of fits under this umbrella that I wanted to share kind of like a method of buy-sell trade that I used to get into as recently as about 3 years ago. And the reference I like to use is Coin World magazine. You could certainly subscribe to this magazine. There is an online presence as well, coinworld.com. They're fantastic. But there is a certain amount of pages in here that I look through. And if you get through like the first like half or maybe 2/3 of it, in which they talk about nothing but US coins, so you get to where they talk about ancients and foreign silver. Okay, there's a spot. This is, by the way, the newest book as of this month for June. But you get to a point where they discuss some of the new low mintage bullion pieces that are going to be coming out within the next month or two that I used to buy, turn around and sell on eBay, and I would double, sometimes triple my money. Okay, a lot of these silver commemoratives, like countries like Canada and let's see here, Russia is another good one. The Austrian Mint cranks out some pretty unique silver commemoratives that are 999 or quad 9 fine gold pieces with really neat technology added in, like holograms and super cool engravings. You know, like there was this owl coin that came out a number of years back. You cannot find one under $1,000, but the original issue price was like, if I had to guess, it was like $250. To a lot of people, that seemed like a lot of money, but people are paying 4 to 10 times that amount of money for that particular coin. It's absolutely amazing. You guys have probably seen that owl coin before, but the engraving it's a masterpiece, and one that you don't typically find. But you get to a point in the book where they discuss the new release silver bullion commemorative coins that come out, like this Wizard of Oz one right here. All right, let me tell you a little bit about that one from what I can see. So that's the Perth Mint is going to be issuing a 1 ounce silver dollar for Tuvalu, okay, celebrating the Wizard of Oz. From what I could see in here, it's going to be quad 9 fine. Usually these things are low mintage. It's going to have a mintage limit of only 5,000 pieces. Now, from what I could gather, the Wizard of Oz movie has a huge cult following. So 5,000 pieces is nothing. Here's the best part. This is going to be sold for $115 Australian, all right? Which is pretty much in line to US money, I think. I don't know how far off the exchange rate is. But if you bought, say, 10 of these, and you took them and you flipped it on eBay after these sell out, you're going to be making a lot of money, okay? There are a lot of collectors of some of these more unique silver bullion pieces that come out of these foreign mints. So this is another thing that I like to kind of speculate on. It's not really speculation, because if it's low enough mintage, obviously it's going to sell out quick. And again, it depends on the actual content that's on there. If you put something weird and kind of like obscure on there, it's probably not going to sell out that fast. But if you put something like there is a coin in here that has Bugs Bunny on it, okay, that appeals to a pretty wide audience of cartoon collectors, and that one will actually sell out pretty quickly. But that is another thing that I think is a great idea in terms of something that's very exclusive, very scarce, but also inexpensive, that you could purchase, turn around and flip and make a ton of money. I did this as a way of kind of like supporting my coin collecting habits, I guess, if that makes sense. And plus, also it fueled a little extra money to get my channel started back in the day. But I would always get the brand new copy of Coin World magazine. I don't know if the website actually talks about some of those brand new bullion commemorative pieces, the worldwide ones. They probably do, but I find it easier just to read it off of the actual printed magazine. It makes it just so much easier. But those are by far my two, excuse me, my two favorite mediums in terms of finding something that's rare or scarce, low mintage, and then finding something that is also relatively affordable. You know, there are a lot more things out there you could buy. There's trade tokens, or is another one, but that's more of a narrow collector base. I'm trying to think, modern commemoratives, but those aren't really that good of a kind of like an investment or a flip for profit opportunity. But you know, the two that I gave you is by far and away the proven ways to go. So Civil War store cards and tokens, and the modern worldwide bullion commemorative coins with low mintages. You know, two of the best. And then another one would be to order product from the U.S. Mint that's going to have a low mintage. You know, in the case of the curved Apollo 11 coins that sold out, the bullion pieces that sold out after, you know, a day or so, okay, those sold for pretty good money on the secondary market, okay? And then again, it's all timing if that's your motivation. But anyways, that's what I wanted to talk about today. You know, my two favorite things that I like to purchase for cheap, and they're popular, okay, and they have low mintage, okay? When you put all three together, it seems like a very difficult thing to kind of figure out. It's like a 1,000-piece puzzle, okay? You just have to put in one piece at a time to really come up with the big picture of it all. But anyways, I'm your host, Blue Ridge Silverhound. Thank you. I don't know how weird the lighting is because I have like spotlights all over me and all that. But I want to thank you guys for all the views and support. Feel free to share, subscribe. Would love to hear your comments. We're going to be doing giveaways all summer long. It starts on the 20th, guys. Can't wait to hook some brothers and sisters out. So you guys have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Peace.